Welcome to Intuitive Superpowers with Cynthia Singleton. Awaken, explore, and ignite your intuition. Live well, love life, and come play. Hello, everyone. Cynthia Singleton here. And as you know, I'm the author of Amping Your Abilities, 77 Ways to Awaken, Explore, and Ignite Your Intuition. And I happen to be here with the man who wrote the foreword of my book, dear friend of mine, Jonathan Robinson. Jonathan, hi.
Hey, Cindy.
I'm happy you're here. We're actually doing an exploratory thing here. Jonathan is a well-versed podcast distributor. What's the name of your podcast there?
Awareness Explorers.
Awareness Explorers. And I am still dabbling with, okay, I've got my book out and it's being well received. What are some of the next steps? And I've been invited on some podcasts, which I will do, but I'm also dabbling with the idea of a podcast of my own. So this is really like an exploratory type thing that we're doing here. So Jonathan's here and willing to play. And so we thought we would start with not necessarily a pilot, but maybe a pre-pilot of a potential podcast. And if not, just a fun conversation to share with everybody. So yeah, so thanks again for being here, Jonathan. Actually, I do have a quick question, if I may, is how did the beginnings of your podcast begin?
Yeah, very organically. I'm into spirituality and awakening, and I found a book of a guy that I thought his book was great. So I just called them up and I said, "Your book's great. I want to talk to you." And we started these conversations about, how to awaken, what are the best methods, what are the ways, pitfalls to avoid. And after about 3 weeks of having these conversations, I said, "This is good stuff. We should do a podcast." And 86 episodes later, it's still going strong and gaining a lot of popularity. We just interviewed Deepak Chopra and people like Byron Katie and Adyashanti, and we're really exploring the best methods for awakening. Just like in your book, you explore the best methods for tapping into intuition and a higher experience of life.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Have you had a podcast guest that has really stuck with you these days? Any particular, like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad this moment happened with this person, or I'll bet I don't know, it might be hard to say.
Well, there's been some funny things that have happened. What we didn't really know is that you can sometimes get like energetic transmissions through certain people, even through Zoom. So like, for example, the famous teacher Byron Katie, she's a very awakened person. Same with Adyashanti. We found that we were getting so high talking to them that we sometimes had a hard time coming up with a question because our mind was blank and we're like in ecstasy and we're trying to figure out how to complete a sentence. That got a little bit funny.
I'll bet it did. So did you say 86 podcasts?
Yeah.
Goodness. And lately, just recently, you did Deepak Chopra, right?
Yeah.
And I had the honor, I'll tell our guests here, I had the honor of that happening in my home. So they did the recording here via Zoom. And so I got to lean in for a moment and meet Deepak, such a sweet gentleman. What stuck with you most from that particular interview, which isn't quite released at the time that we're doing this?
Yeah, it'll come out in like 3 days. It's interesting. Sometimes people will say a phrase or just something that just hits me in a different way. It might even be something that you've heard before. And it's the same like in your book. Sometimes you'll say something, and I know somewhere I've read that before, but just the right timing or the right moment, and it just goes in. So Deepak said, no matter what your experience is, whether it's driving a car, email, meditating, or cooking dinner, your pure awareness is there. It's always there. It's just whether or not you're recognizing it. And so I've been in some very strange situations lately, maybe cleaning the garage, and I realize that awareness is there, and I get high and very present for a moment. And that phrase, awareness is always there, just seemed to stay with me. That's one thing that he said. But, he's Deepak Chopra. He says a lot of fascinating things.
Yeah. So what's interesting is when Jonathan and I sat down to talk here, my intention was to start asking Jonathan about his career and all that, and that might come. But right now, I feel like I'm like following my intuition and questioning. So I'm going to go a little further and where my intuition is taking me and asking Jonathan, what does awareness mean to you as you speak of that?
Yeah, it's a good question because like people use the word love, and love means different things to different people, depending on how you're using it. Obviously, awareness means that you're having an experience, but there's something which I call the background of awareness, which is always here. It's really our nature is awareness, and then we develop personalities and thoughts and all these other things. But teachers throughout the ages have said that if you can just tap into pure awareness before your personality, the thing that's hearing these words, the thing that's seeing stuff without an ego there or before an ego's there, that you can tap into a well house of peace and even love, because that's our actual nature before we develop all these other add-ons. And part of spirituality, as I see it, is to get back to that place of just being present as an awareness and feeling that peace and love more and more throughout your day.
Thank you. It really gets me to thinking about, I wrote about intuition, and much of what you touch upon is awareness. And so I'm kind of questioning myself is what is the difference between like that awareness and, as I wrote in my book about intuition, like that whisper, that nudge, that knowing. And so I'd be curious what you might say about what you think the difference between awareness and intuition is.
Yeah, it's a great question, and there's no right answer. I think it's a really good exploration. But the way I kind of look at it is that we have, we'll call it the awareness level of consciousness, we have the ego level of consciousness, and we have the intuition level of consciousness. Um, Ego is kind of the lowest, what we tend to be, very agenda based, very much taking things personally. But as you raise up, you go into a higher vibration, say awareness, where you're just present. And then you can go into another vibration, which is you're kind of connected to everything. And that's what intuition is. It kind of has access to more than just this moment. It's we all hear we're all one, but most of the time our consciousness is not that connected to that greater reality. Some might call it God or spirit or the still small voice within. So as awareness, as you raise your consciousness by becoming more aware, you enter into higher vibrations. And as you enter into higher vibrations, intuition, even things like psychic phenomena all become possible because you are starting to enter into the unity of all things.
I would totally have to agree. And what's so funny is as I prepare for podcasts, one of the questions that my marketing team and my publishers are wanting me to consider is who have been my inspirations throughout my life. And so to circle back what you're saying, what's so funny is Jonathan Robinson, who's sitting here right now, has been one of my inspirations in my life. In fact, I remember at some point watching the Oprah show and pausing on this guy in blue, which was Jonathan. And I remember like years ago thinking, how do I know this guy? I know this guy. But also on the Oprah show, and you've been on other shows and whatnot. And you've written quite a few books, New York Times best-selling books. And so I, in some of my years, grew up being inspired by many of your books. And I found that your books gave me a lot of inspiration about clearing blockages out of maybe ego or my path that would open me up to a clearer vision of what is my highest purpose, what is my soul, where things don't necessarily get in the way as much, so I can tap into a higher life, higher vibration. And what's interesting is perhaps with your influence throughout my life with some of your books, much of my book does address in some of the methods ways to tap into higher vibration and therefore intuition. So I'm seeing a parallel here, like you're helping people tap into awareness and I'm helping people tap into intuition. And I'm finding and seeing here that the road might be a very similar, beautiful road. So my next intuitive question that I'm going to tap into with you is, what do you think some of the main blockages to awareness or intuition might be? And then maybe we can explore after that some of the ways to tap in. I'd love to hear some of your ways.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. I think different blocks for different people. So the question is, you could ask intuitively is what are my blocks now? Because they change. For some people, it's just busyness. They never take the time. It's kind of like if you're out of shape and you never work out, you would say, well, I never work out. That's why I'm out of shape. If you never take time to slow down, be present, and listen in quiet, then that's a big block. But also sometimes people have an identity block, like they think, oh, I'm not intuitive or I can't do that. Well, check to see if you're a human being. And if you are, then you can. Other than the story in your head, we all have equal access. And when we're slower down, we're more likely to tap in. But I think just knowing that you can do that, you don't have to, take years meditating. You can literally spend an hour, quiet down, ask yourself some good questions, read your book that has the whole smorgasbord of a menu of methods, and find the method that works for you and just practice. I think it's a little bit like a muscle that, if you work it out or practice it, it gets stronger. So that's what I think the biggest block is, really that people don't take the time to do it.
I'd have to agree with you that we're all born with intuition and we all have the capacity. And one of the ways that I hear you saying that it's like a muscle, and I would completely agree with you. And one of the things that I say is that intuition is a little bit like a water faucet. Is we could turn it on or turn it off, but we can certainly increase the flow with our intention.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's really interesting to be having this conversation about this. So what are some of, if you're willing to share some of your favorite ways to tap into awareness or tap into your deeper intuition?
I think an underlying method of any method is your sincere desire. So, whether you're spending time in nature to slow down, or you're meditating, or you're taking some kind of supplement, or you're reading, Rumi poetry, or whatever it is, your actual desire, like I really want this, is underlying that. And then it's really a question of what helps you to quiet all the mind chatter. And different things work for different people. For some people, it might be listening to their favorite music. For other people, it might be going for a run. As for me, I've meditated a lot. So I have ways of meditating that quiet my mind. And then I will usually ask a question like, I made a lot of money and got a lot of book ideas by just asking the question, how can I serve?
Mm.
And then every now and then, not always, but every now and then, there'd be a flash and it's like, yes, now I know. And, it'd be a book or a project. And that feeling of rightness, like, yeah, that deep down feels like what I'm supposed to do. That's a wonderful feeling.
It's interesting you say that, because I'm sitting here as an observer thinking, well, that's somebody who's opening up and following their intuition, that
Mhm.
edge, that voice that we might not be sure exactly where it's coming from, God, divine spirit, um, but it's there. I think we all know that feeling of a knowingness about something. So, how about in your just regular day life? What are some things that kind of lighten you and make you feel happy? Like, for example, I know you are the recent author of Conversations with Dog, and I know you had an inspiration for that book and something in your life that really brings you quite a bit of joy. In fact, I could see it written all over your face right now. Would you like to talk a little bit about that in terms of lightening your life? Or
Yeah, well, the, the life is tough now. There's a lot of challenges, but there's also a lot of graces. Like we have access to all music. That's never happened before. What a blessing, or almost all movies. But we also have graces like air conditioning, and we also have graces like animals. And I'm a big dog lover. And one day I was just, rubbing the belly of my dog, and I was thinking, I wonder if she could communicate, what she would say to me. And that led to me being open to that communication. And my dog is one of the happiest beings I've ever met. So, she was like trying to teach me lessons, like, slow down, guy, just smell the roses, or let's play, that's her agenda, and love and play. And that's a pretty high agenda. So the subtitle of the book is The Adventures of a Four-Legged Guru, and the book has done extremely well.
yeah, what's funny is, as we started talking about animals, my kitty cat's sitting over here and she's doing this little pterodactyl purr. And she must know what we're talking about. And she, for me, is one way to tap into my higher self, higher happiness, which kind of helps remove the basic blockages and bring more of, yeah, just a feeling of wellness and being able to tap into other things. So, as we speak of ways to tap into our higher selves or awareness or intuition, like I focus on, would you have just a little activity that folks can try at home that might only take us just a couple minutes here?
Yeah, I'll lead a quick guided meditation, which can kind of take us out of being too focused on our current problem. We always have a problem, you know, and when we focus on that, that blocks out awareness, it blocks out intuition, it blocks out joy. So here's a very simple thing. If people, just in a couple minutes, people can close their eyes and hopefully expand into new things. So just feel your body on the chair or couch, wherever you are, and become aware of the sensations of sitting there and any part of your body that might be a little tense. And just allow your body to relax. Maybe you've been thinking about some situation that you have to deal with, and notice that that's there too. But along with any thoughts going through your head or any challenging emotions, there's also these sensations that you can feel of warm or cool or however you feel them. And include the fact that you're able to hear the sound of my voice, that you're not deaf, you have these magical ears, that you're able to hear the sound of my voice and maybe other sounds far away, wherever you're located. And include the fact that you're able to experience all this on many levels. You have thoughts, sensations, sounds, and you also have an awareness that's aware of all these things coming in. And as you feel into what it's like to experience all these things, and ask, what is that awareness? Perhaps you feel a little bit more peace, like you're not so focused on one thing, but you're letting it all in, including the simple joy of breathing, the simple joy of existing and being present in this moment. And as you include that, you can feel kind of a quietness somewhere within you, a stillness somewhere within you, and include that as well, that's there. And from that place, you can sometimes get answers or intuitions for what's a good way to take care of yourself. So take your time, and when you're ready, you can very, very slowly come back to the room, feeling a little bit more of that silence and stillness, and go about and enjoy your day.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Jonathan Robinson, author of Conversations with the Dog. And I, again, have enjoyed this exploratory conversation in terms of what are the next steps for me? Am I going to do a podcast? I know I'll be on some podcasts. And it was, again, I'm going to say it's just really interesting that I actually have a little piece of paper here that I was going to follow, but instead of following that, which I might do another time, I followed my intuition with this conversation, and I feel really full and satiated in a really good way about what happened in this conversation with us when I follow my intuition.
When you
And
let
to
go of,
learn,
when you let go of agenda and follow intuition, good things happen.
indeed, yes. Thank you again. And I, again, am Cynthia Singleton, author of Amping Your Abilities, 77 Ways to Awaken, Explore, and Ignite Your Intuition. And if you'd like to find out more about me, I am at intuitivesuperpowers.com. Again, intuitivesuperpowers.com. And remember that it's like the turn of a faucet. It's like a muscle. You can tune in to awareness and you can turn into your intuition, and with that, may it bring you a bigger, brighter life for you, the people around you, and even your pets.